Welcome to Crypto Talk Radio, the podcast for everyday investors like you. Visit us on the web at cryptotalkradio.net. And now, here's your host, Leister.
Thank you for that, Bailey, and welcome everybody out there in Crypto Talk Radio, found at cryptotalkradio.net. Honestly, it feels, frustration is not the word. It's distressing. Let's go with distressing. It's distressing. People, behaviors, mentalities. I did a giveaway of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, which I don't think is a very good game, but I did a giveaway on our other podcast, Casual Talk Radio, sister show. Did a giveaway that went really well. I liked what I got out of it. The responders reinforced that there are people out there that actually do pay attention, listen, absorb, process. I'm reassured. And so it told me that I got to kind of switch it up a little bit in terms of the focus. I have to focus on those. I have to nurture that population and not cater to those that don't listen, because there's too many that don't listen, and I don't get why they don't listen, but they don't listen. So I'm not going to cater to those that don't listen. I'm going to mention this one last time, okay? And hopefully there's people listening at CryptoTalk.fm from that era, and you'll listen this time. And if you're not the person who chimed me on YouTube, you will spread the message to those other people in the so-called consensus and spread so they understand how this works. First, let's talk cryptocurrency, because I know you're chomping at the bit on that chaos. CoinMarketCap.com. We are going to start with Bitcoin and zoom out to the month chart so we can talk about the absolute disaster. I say disaster, that's in quotes, disaster that happened with Bitcoin's price as it plunged all the way down to the $75,000 mark. Right now, it's about $76,000 mark. I see a strong downward trend. There are people who are telling you that it looks like it's going back up. I don't see that it's going back up in the short term. To me, it looks like a downward trend headed towards the $70,000 mark from my lens. Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but it looks to me like it's headed downward. So I happened to notice on a couple of channels, people were trashing precious metals because precious metals, which I'll talk about in depth here in a minute, but precious metals had gone down. Silver hit that peak, got over $120 per ounce, went back down to like the $82 mark. And people were taking a victory lap saying, well, the money was flowing back into cryptocurrency. And I wanted to emphasize that was not the case. The entire structure, economics, macro, all of these affected everything. It was not just crypto. It was not just precious metals. Everything got impacted by all of it. And then a lot of it was exacerbated by what I would argue are negative sentiment holdover things that were a byproduct of Warren Buffett essentially rug pulling. I say that it's in quotes, but essentially rug pulling on his way out the door. If you didn't remember, he stepped down as CEO. He's still chairman at Berkshire Hathaway, but he stepped down as CEO. He was going to retire at the end of 2025. He did. Another person took over. That person, from what we can tell, is nowhere near as, let's say, bullish. I don't like to use that word for this, but let's say bullish about consolidation and getting more and growing. He doesn't seem like he is that same. He's built that same like Warren was. This guy seems like he has no problem dropping assets as it suits him. Like he seems like he's very fickle in his decision making. I'm sure there's a strategy behind it, but it seems like he's nowhere near as consistent in growth behaviors as Buffett was. But Buffett had dumped a crazy amount of stock before he left. Crazy amount. And then the whole craft business, there's all sorts of disruption happening with Berkshire Hathaway, and the significance of the amount of dumps caused some shift and shock in the markets, in addition to what we expected was going to be some sort of compression that needed to happen from the precious metal run, because it was running real hot. The cryptocurrency, of course, people speculated was waiting on the regulation, and I covered that. The Clarity Act and Genius and everything. And I said, I don't think these are in the right direction. Apparently that didn't go over very well. The bill it's still being hung up. It's not getting any strong traction. So that's not having any sort of momentum. So you have a lot of different negative catalysts is my point that I argue was contributing to what we saw. With precious metals, then it's already starting to rebound. Silver's back up to the just shy of $94 per ounce mark. Gold is back over $5,000. Platinum is 2,300. Palladium's going crazy. So precious metals are recovering and recovered quick. I said in my other episode that silver's price in particular is broken. What we were seeing was not price discovery. Nobody really fully understands the real price of silver, or what it should be, because of how much paper trading was happening. This rebound that I see on silver, up almost $10 now, tells me that I'm on the right track. Silver doesn't really have a known ceiling yet. We haven't determined the real ceiling for it. With silver's run and the profit potential that it is, and obviously certain traders are going to be better at this than others. If they were stacking back when it was like $20 or $10 and they just were sitting on a crap ton of it, and then they're able to sell at profit, or even better, trade it for gold or trade it for platinum, these are positioning themselves for stronger levels of their fundamentals. Those are the ones that you got to watch, because they're not going to sell the assets for the money. They don't need it. They said, we want to make sure that the so-called bloodline is taken care of. And I celebrate those people. I do have some silver. I had no plans to sell it anytime in the near. I said the price would have to go much higher than what I see, and I wasn't worried about the dip. I was looking to buy some more, actually, quite frankly. But then, unfortunately, the supply crunch happened, so I wasn't able to get in like I wanted to at the price that I was hoping to get in. I was tempted at a moment. Silver is still underpriced. Don't get it twisted. But I simply felt that there was an opportunity to go even lower, and I didn't want to buy in with a significant premium. Not because the premium is a lot of money. It's not. I just didn't want to pay a significant premium if I could avoid it. So if you're interested in precious metals, my point is that I still feel silver is grossly underpriced. Its rebound seems to confirm that statement. It's something you want to take eyes and note on, because in the long term, I feel if you look at the rebound of that versus where crypto is, cryptocurrency, I said, money's going to flow. It's going to go back and forth. And with the rise of precious metals, I think it will come back into crypto at some point, just not now. It feels like some money is still draining in the opposite direction. Then there was the whole Bitcoin and the miners and hash rates down and supply and some hoarding. There's all sorts of things happening. So I am not, I'll just repeat myself, I am not paying close attention to cryptocurrency like I might have done 4 years ago, primarily because it's becoming more predictable. It's becoming less volatile. It's becoming easier to read it. And because it's easier to read it, you can get a lot of this that I'm talking about from a variety of different people. But pay attention to some that were previously talking all about cryptocurrency that are now talking about precious metals after the fact, after it ran up, versus some of the rest of us that were talking about precious metals before the run up, because we saw it feels like now's the time. Use that to govern who you choose to listen to. I'm not even talking just me exclusively. I'm talking there's multiple people out there that were talking about precious metals for the longest time. And I think a lot of that went on deaf ears, especially with silver. If you're curious, by the way, cryptotalk.fm, hit the contact form, let us know. We're happy to recommend some channels that we think are good coverage. There's a couple of good people out there, people that they actively hold the stuff. They'll show you they hold the stuff. Sometimes they'll show you they go and trade it. They talk with the traders. You get really good information about this it's a whole cottage industry, and it's fascinating. And it's nothing like the stock or any of that. Obviously, you're beholden to trading hours for businesses to be open, but by and large, you have almost total control of your trading experience. And you have to understand, precious metal trading is nothing like trading any digital asset you can think of. I'm talking the real asset, not the paper assets. Last point on precious metals. So I did some numbers crunching. Copper went up. It almost doubled per ounce. Right now, copper was trading, last I looked, at about $14 an ounce, which I thought was surprising. I remembered these being much lower. I was tempted to get in when they had plenty of stock, and I backed off the purchase. I don't regret that at the time, because I was going to get there are little bullion bars of copper. They have the shape of the dollar on them, and I like them visually. And I was going to get a bunch of them of all the different denominations. They ran out of stock when there was a rush on precious metals. They're starting to restock them now. So instead of doing that, I bought a 10-pound bar of copper. I like the way it looks. I just visually like the way it looks. And then I bought a bunch of other of the so-called base metals or rare metals that are not precious. So, I've got zinc, tin, aluminum, sulfur. I think there's a couple of other ones that I've got that are part of this suite. And then I thought, well, do I get all the periodic ones? Let me just get these, and then I'll build a visual collection for the ones that I like. After I did that, then I went back and looked deeper into the price that I paid for that bar, because I remember it was nothing at the time. It was absolutely nothing. I think I must have paid shortly over $120, $130 for this bar. That bar is out of stock in every store. And if you want it, they're selling it for like $1,500, $1,600 for this freaking thing that I only paid $100 something for. And it's 10x on where you can get it if you did want it. Now, that doesn't mean that there's an active demand. It doesn't mean that there's active interest in buying it. I simply call out, I was shocked to see, because again, these 1 ounce ones doubled. And to see that the 1 ounce is doubled, and in the process of the 1 ounce doubling, all of the pound bricks went out of stock almost instantly. Even now, they're just now starting to get the 1 pounds back in stock. They're charging $160 for one of the 1 pounds. It's a nice 1 pound, but I'm saying it's $160 for a 1 pound. Okay, my brick is a 10 pounder. Right? So the price I paid for my 10, they're now selling the 1 for even more. And I know a lot of that's going to be premium. Then you think about if you pay with a plastic debit credit, they're charging more. So you got the premium for them to pocket, and then they charge you the card fees. So the only way you can really get the best price is to buy when there's minimal demand at the store level, they have overstock, and you pay with wire transfer. I could do wire transfer. It's not a problem. I just prefer to play with the plastic. You get percent back, cash back, or points if you're interested in points. So I was trying to be smart about, maybe I should just use this, get some cash back and do a thing. I saw on a different site then they were offering a card. And when you swipe the card, it basically gives you back precious metals as part of it. I decided against that one because credit's a scam, so I don't do that. The bottom line is that precious metals has changed. Even within the last 3 months, it's changed. Not just 3 months ago. Again, 10 pounds of copper, you could have it for $100. And now it's being sold. It's out of stock everywhere. And where it is available, which is eBay, essentially, you're talking 10x. Demand's not there at this moment. If there's another crunch for copper, you might see a run on it because people see it's cheap. Same with what's happening with silver. People see it's cheap, and so they run to what's cheap. This is just using psychological behavior of people, and they're acting accordingly. So I said, all right, do I focus on cryptocurrency because I could, or do I wait out cryptocurrency expecting it would go down to a point where I could get what I'd like to get, which is 10%. So let's take Bitcoin. If I said, all right, I don't mind taking $3,000 and putting it into cryptocurrency. Well, to do that, I'd need Bitcoin to be $30,000, right? What's the likelihood and probability that Bitcoin hits $30,000? There were some people predicting that low. Do I think it goes that low? No. I'm saying that I'm not in any rush to buy any crypto right now because I see that there's something happening. I'm not sure what it is, and I'm not sure how long it'll last. But if it did go down to where I could get 10%, I'd be okay, right? And then I just simply determine what's the most amount of money I would be comfortable putting in the stuff with an expectation of some sort of price deal. So as I chewed this in my head, I looked at the whole strategy / MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor. If you didn't read the headlines, and this is basically the crux of my upload today, if you didn't read the headlines, people ran the numbers and noticed that strategy is essentially very close to a problem spot with respect to their Bitcoin stash, that there was going to be potentially some sort of a critical decision to sell off. I gave an update about a couple months ago talking about the CEO, the new guy or one of the guys, and he was saying if we'll sell if we have to, et cetera, And so a bunch of people were looking at the stack that they have because they're in deep red, close to $1 billion, I believe it is. It's not the fact that they're in the red that's the problem. The real concern is the fact that it's not their money. They borrowed money to do this stacking. So in other words, they're using other people's money to buy this, and then it goes into a negative position. And at what point are they going to have to liquidate assets in order to make whole the people that they borrowed money from? Because it all goes to accounting and books and risk and some sort of oversight. Now we have to ask the question, the people that lent the money, and some of it's debt instruments. So when I say lent, I don't mean all of it was lent. I'm saying the ones that did lend money to MicroStrategy, they had to know, they had to have asked, what are you going to do with it, right? And if strategy said, we're going to put it into cryptocurrency investments, those people had to accept, they had to, inherent risk in that decision with not getting your money back. So what was that agreement? It's kind of the open question. And then two, somebody else said, basically if this thing hits $70,000 or goes beneath $70,000, I guarantee you there's going to be some critical board meeting to talk about what do we do now and decide to sell. And that would cause a cascade sell-off similar to what you were seeing with Buffett on the way out. That's why I started with it, because some people are predicting some sort of doom and gloom scenario of a cascade breakdown. You have Warren Buffett doing his business, spooks the market. You have strategy potentially having this after seeing cryptocurrency go down as much as it did. And then they do some sell-offs, and then those sell-offs cause cascade sell-offs from the institutionals, who by and large are the reason that the price got as high as it did in the first place. So then retail would likely buy in simply because it's a discount. Obviously, you're going to have some FOMO sellers, but I think now there's less of a chance of retail dumping and more of an institutional dump because they hold so much of it, which is something I mentioned about 5 months ago. It's getting a little bit too centralized for my taste. That's why I held off on any significant purchases, because I wasn't sure what are these people going to do with this money. It didn't make sense, and I wanted to wait it out. And I wanted to see, since we're off the FTX stuff, we're off the Gemini stuff, we're off the Binance US stuff, we're off all these other major cryptocurrency disruptions. The only thing left then was Gensler getting out. He's out, right? Now we have Jerome Powell. He has to get out. He's not out yet, but we know what his replacement is and how that person works. We know what Trump's thinking of doing. We also understand that all of the international war macro situations are escalating, which might negate any benefit we might have seen. So I held off. I said, I'm not going to get in this because I'm not sure yet. There's not enough stability for me to be confident putting a significant amount of money in this stuff. So I've been investing in my property because I felt at least there, the worst that would happen really is my mortgage rate would go down. And I'm actually waiting for that to happen. I'm waiting for the rate to at least half, so I can refinance it so that more goes to equity. And then the equity I probably wouldn't draw out to a significant degree, except to get the house I really want if I chose to do that. So, summary of what I just said, cryptocurrency is the last thing on my mind. Other than the headache I have, cryptocurrency is not something I'm thinking of or focusing on. Now, let's wrap up today's episode. I want to keep it kind of succinct. Look it up. Let's wrap up today's episode with, why did I start with the song that I did at the very beginning? And I want to clarify why that song is relevant here. There are people, not all of you, but there are people who flip-flop. They move with the wind. To quote the late, great David Ruffin, from day to day, you keep me guessing, right? You run hot and cold. You're like a faucet. That's how some of these people are. They are not of singular, look it up, mind. As a person, I resonate best with people who understand what they create, their own path. They define who they are, who they're going to be, what they're going to believe, what they're going to think, and they roll with it. And they don't flex. It's one thing to say you were mistaken in one thought process. That's fine, but they don't do that. Some of you actually, not all, but some of you don't do that. You don't acknowledge when you got it wrong. So when I do my show, CryptoTalk.fm, you can go back. It's on my site. You can go back and you can listen to my message and you can listen to my narrative, and you will find consistency in the message. And I always caveat, I'm not sure about that, might get this wrong, etc., where I'm not sure. But you'll find consistency in the underlying message. You'll find consistency in the delivery. What I don't do is I don't flip like some of you do. And some of you, not all, some of you, they'll listen to something and you like what I say. But then if somebody else comes along and says something different, you want to roll over there. I support that, because you should never follow any one person. Now, this is where things go awry. Look it up. Some people, they like the old school. They would have the person that's shouting out the megaphone through the van, driving through the neighborhood, trying to rally support. And that's who gets people's attention, because they happen to say the right things. There's no fundamental in it. And they might even put on a good face. There's no fundamental in it. There's not. Sometimes, I'll give you a great example. The guy, and I think it's New York, rent is just too damn high. That guy, right? He has the perfect message. Everybody knows what he's saying is true. Everybody knows what he's saying is fact. Nobody came out to vote for the guy. Nobody supported him on the platform it mattered. Instead, AOC, who had no experience whatsoever, is a bartender. No experience, but because she's cute, at that time, that's what they said. Because she's cute, because she's young, and because she's something different, people gravitate towards her, despite the fact that in multiple of her messages, there's no real strong fundamental. It's all emotional. And she understands it's a fallacy, appeal to emotion fallacy. She understands how to tug those strings. Appeal to emotion fallacy is the very problem in cryptocurrency, and why I put that snippet at the front. Because what some of you don't get is how you're influenced by that. You don't get how your emotions betray you at every turn. So I've had people stop by now on a pretty infrequent basis, but yet consistent basis, and they're curious. They're genuinely curious. The curiosity goes two ways. One person will rightfully ask, I listen to your stuff. I like your stuff. I appreciate your stuff. I'm curious about XYZ. What's going on? Yes, those are the people I want to hear from. CryptoTalk.fm, hit the contact form. We're always around. I want to hear from those people, because it means those people saw value or see value in things that we've talked about. And I appreciate those people because they might want to hear more. Then there's the other side who assume something has happened that's impossible. If I choose to cover something, it's because I choose to cover something. I expect that there's an appreciation of that coverage. If there's not an appreciation of that coverage, I don't continue covering it. And for those that are curious about how that works, you can go to the site, cryptotalk.fm, and you can look up the coverage we did on Safuu, or even at YouTube. It's on YouTube too, that we did on Safuu, SAFUU. Listen to the coverage that we did, especially the one about Stockholm Syndrome. Because that was the last. I said, look, I can't help you any further because you don't get it. You're not listening. And those people didn't listen to me. And what happened? They got screwed because they didn't listen. It was obvious. It was clear. It was easy to predict in what was going on. And they didn't listen to me. They listened to Daniel Fredo and the car salesman and certain other people in the community swearing up and down that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? That I'm lying or that I don't get it or, okay, well, and then those people don't come back and give my credit after it's like, look, you called this. We didn't listen to you. Hachi, Hachi. I did, this is podcast and YouTube. You can check it. I did warnings. I said, look at what it is. CoinMarketCap. Obviously, CoinMarketCap drops the post. At the time, I warned people. I'm like, I don't see any fundamentals here. I'm telling you, you need to make a choice, but I don't see anything. Watch out on this one. Goes just shy of a penny, and then, hey, I tried to warn you people. I just asked, come back, give my credit, man. I'm trying to warn and help you. And my expectation is you take when I get it right, which I frequently do, not always, but frequently, you come back and I'll give you my credit. You called that. You were trying to warn it. You were trying to be upfront about that stuff. And we appreciate that stuff. I had a couple of people do that. We saw what you said. I had one person say, I saw it. I got ahead of it and I got out for a 2X and thank you for warning. Cause I would have just put way more money in there. That's what I like is appreciation when I'm trying to tell you these things. That appreciation is rare. It's rare and that's sad, but I understand that there's these projects where there's a Stockholm syndrome that grows, especially when you know that it's a scammer ahead of it, or that there's people in the community that are essentially supporting the grift. So you fall into the trap. You don't know what's going on. And as a result, you're trapped and you're desperate. And because you're desperate, you're looking for, as we used to say in the old days, a Captain Save-A-Ho to get you out of the pit. And that person or people who make a claim that they've got a plan to get you out of the hole is who you listen to. Because at least somebody's doing something. At least somebody's trying. At least somebody's got a plan. It looks like things are happening. I'm going to continue to say what I've always said and will hold adamant to what I said. I said at the end of the day, you won't beat him. You won't. And it's fine. But until you acknowledge that, nothing changes. So this is the last that I will address that same. I choose what to cover. The coverage choice is based on feedback, listener feedback. If the listener feedback is supportive, it continues. If the listener feedback is against it, it discontinues. It's easy. If you want, so don't ask, well, how come you're not doing that? I'm not, because listener feedback was that they don't want it. So since you don't want it, if you're part of that group, you have to go with the consensus, or you have to challenge the consensus as wrong. You have to either tell them they're wrong, as in you tell them that they're wrong and tell them why they're wrong and get them to change their feedback. You won't do that either because it's Stockholm syndrome. They're at a point of desperation where they don't want to hear those facts. They don't want those facts repeated. They don't want the harsh truth. They don't want to be continually hurt or their feelings hurt by somebody telling them what they know to be true, which is You made that choice. You decided that. You chose that. The first step is admitting you have a problem, as in you chose that. You fell into that. Until you accept your part to play in what's happening, you won't beat him. And until you get to a point of what I do, which is a defensive, smart game plan about how we deal with these disruptions and things, I can't help, because I am smart. I am not an aggressor. When I say I'm not an aggressor, that doesn't mean I don't come at people. It means I understand how to beat people who are smarter than me. People who are smarter than me, you have to outsmart them. The person in question, I accept he's smarter than me. He must damn sure be. That rhymes. Consider how much wealth he's accumulated over the past years. He must be smarter than me. He has more wealth than I do. However he got it, illicit or otherwise, he must be smarter than me. Thus, I must figure out how to outsmart him. And if I take the wrong approach, I'm not even talking about myself at this point. I'm talking in general. If one takes the wrong approach trying to come at that person, he employs his smarts to outsmart you. The reactions I'm getting are from people who see that, and they understand, but they will not acknowledge and give me my credit for calling out the simple fact. He's smarter than you. He's smarter than all of you. He will continue to be smarter than you. It's too late to beat him. It's not that you could not have at a point, but to do that, you would have had to have listened to what I said when I said it, instead of rejecting it because it wasn't what you wanted to hear. Only wanting what you want to hear is called groupthink. I don't groupthink. I don't tell you what you want to hear. I tell you the truth. There are people in the consensus who don't want the truth. They want to hear what they want to hear, what makes them feel good, what makes them think that something's going to happen. As I close, here's how I can prove to you that I know what I'm talking about. And hopefully some of you will absorb what I've said this episode, and you'll think it through and realize you have a cloud has been put over you, and you are in the matrix. You are the inside. You're trapped. You don't get it. And this guy that you're listening to at CryptoTalk.fm, he's clear. And I've been trying to lead you to clarity. I cannot lead to clarity those that do not want to walk on their own. You got to walk on your own. But listen, consider this now. If you watch any of these online broadcasts and you watch AMAs and you watch updates, you notice that the dialogue, everything has now shifted. Everything now is, well, geez, it looks like something's happening. It looks like something's moving. It looks like this might be something. Maybe there is something. Maybe we should just shut up and let it play out. Maybe there's not what we're being told. See, I'm at a point now of general optimism. I actually truly do hope that things work out. I truly do hope that I'm right and that this person is as smart as I sense that he is, such that something's pulled off that belies, look it up, what certain people are telling you is the case. As in, I truly hope that this person is so smart that he has caused a significant waste of money, all for naught. Look it up, for these people. And that something shows in contradiction to what many of you were told and what many of you believed. I honestly hope that. Because regardless of what's been said on any side, I'm going to maintain he's smarter than those that you support. I'm going to maintain he's significantly smarter than those that you support. And now all I've got to do is sit back and see if he proves me right. Because if he proves me right, I win. And I sit back. And then it's up to you. If you come back and give my credit and say, you know, we should have been listening to you the whole time, instead of listening to other people who steered us in the wrong direction. But we hear you. We were trapped. We didn't understand. We were desperate. We thought this. They told us that. And it turned out not to be the case. And all we had to do was be smarter about who it is we actually listened to and didn't listen to, and understand when we turned against people, we did it because we were followers. We were sheep. And being sheep is something that you, as in Leicester, don't support because you don't need to. It's a waste of time. That's the game we play here. That's the game. It's an easy game. It's an obvious game. Just like I told the people with Libero, just like I told the people with Seifu, just like I told the people with Saitama, just like I told the people with Made a Bull Run, just like I told countless. It's a pattern, and it is a predictable pattern, and it's an easy to detect pattern. Many of you don't look for the pattern. Because remember, he told you you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for marketing. Did he lie? Did he lie? Or is it possible you're just embarrassed that you got exposed with your pants down and Vaseline off the side by somebody who's just smarter than the people you choose to follow? Don't come back now until you understand what I just said and you accept it. As much as it sucks, you have to understand what I just said, because you don't know what you got until it's gone. That's where we're at, folks. Until you accept it, nothing will change. Your position won't change. How you feel won't change. Your level of awareness won't change. Nothing changes until you understand what got you here. What got you here is you failed. You failed yourself. You accepted terms that were bullshit. You can say, I didn't know they were bullshit. You had to know they were bullshit. You had to know they were bullshit. But he is smarter than you. And until that gets through your head, you won't be free. And I can't free you. So don't ask me to try, because you've already rejected that. And I accept that rejection. Let's talk precious metals. Let's talk other cryptocurrencies. Let's talk anything else you want. Let's talk the stuff where you don't have high-ranking officers in the way. Let's talk stuff where there's accountability. Let's talk stuff that's casino, polymarket, whatever. We can talk about anything else you want. All I say, you have to accept your part to play in the decision. You made the decision. Nobody forced you. And once you understand that, you understand where power comes from. Power comes from decisions, choice, control. Then you can use that power to steer your own ship instead of expecting a, quote, high-ranking officer who's inept at the wheel to steer you into that iceberg again.